Once upon a time, there lived or lives a Jewish priest in the city of New York. And his name is Rabbi Kushner. Rabbi Kushner was a wonderful, or is a wonderful Jewish priest. He truly loves God. And not only does he love God, but he spends all his time glorifying God, inspiring his congregation to have faith in God. He's always telling people that God is wonderful, God is great, God loves you, God is all powerful. And he was much loved, he is much loved by his congregation. One day, many years ago, he got the shock of his life. His newborn son was diagnosed by his pediatrician to have a disease known as progeria. Progeria is a disease which causes accelerated aging in children. So that before your eyes, the child grows old and finally dies of old age, often before they reach puberty. It's a terrible thing. It's an unfortunate thing to lose your own child. It's even worse to see your child dying before your own eyes of old age while you live on. And more than anything else, it really calls into question your faith in God. So, Rabbi Kushner, if he was a finance expert, if he was an executive in a company, if he was a doctor, if he was an engineer, if he was a chartered accountant, he would have had no such issues. But here was an issue which threatened his very faith, his livelihood, and everything that he stood for, his life. Because on one hand, he was going every day and speaking to his congregation and congregation members individually and telling them that God is great, God is wonderful, God is all powerful, God is all merciful. But this question always arose to him in his mind that after glorifying God the whole day, he would go home and then he would see his child growing older and older and older and dying before his eyes. So if God is all powerful and God is all merciful, why do bad things happen to good people? You and I, we know that bad things happen to good people. So since bad things happen to good people, does this mean that God is not all merciful? Or does it mean that God is not all powerful? So this was a question that tortured his mind, his heart, his soul, because as a man of God, as somebody glorifying God every day, inspiring other people to have faith in God, he had to see the consequences in his own house of the fact that bad things were happening to a good person like him. And all of you must have asked this question: why do bad things happen to good people? So, to answer this question, he scoured his scriptures. And unfortunately, the Jewish faith had no answers, or no answers that were satisfactory enough. So he wrote a book which became a bestseller. And the book that Rabbi Kushner wrote was Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? In this book, Rabbi Kushner described that God is wonderful, God is all powerful, God is all loving. And he had his own explanation of why God lets bad things happen to good people. So in his book, he's said that, just like when a child is growing up, as a baby, he thinks his father is the strongest man in the world. He thinks his father is the strongest person and most powerful person in the world. But as he grows up, he realizes that's not really totally true. There are people who are more powerful than him. There are people who are stronger than him, his father. Similarly, he said, we begin our spiritual life by thinking that God is all powerful. But as we grow up, we realize that God is perhaps not all powerful and he can't really prevent bad things from happening to good people. Of course, this is not in keeping with the teachings of our scriptures, because unlike the scriptures outside this subcontinent, our subcontinent is the only home of the law of karma. It's not only Hinduism that has the law of karma, it is not only Buddhism that has the law of karma, Jainism has the law of karma, Sikhism has the law of karma. Every religion that has taken birth in the subcontinent has universally accepted that the law of karma does exist. And this law of karma, not only does it exist, but along with it, they accept that there is what we call as reincarnation. And with law of karma and reincarnation, they come together. We have a very complete philosophy that explains why bad things happen to good people. The Bhagavad Gita is a unique book. And it's a unique book because in this sacred scripture, God himself speaks, Krishna himself speaks. And he speaks in order to bust the law of karma. He speaks in order to teach you how to transcend the law of karma. Bhagavad Gita begins with Arjun in a state of tremendous distress. He is not distressed because he is cowardly. He does not fear the arrows. He does not fear the slings of misfortune. He does not fear the bloodshed that he will have to inflict or submit to. Arjun is afraid of the law of karma. And the whole Bhagavad Gita is teaching you how to transcend the law of karma. Because Arjun thinks, oh, when I kill all these people, this will happen, that will happen, and I will be the source of everything. I will be the cause of everything. And therefore, I shall have to suffer for all these sins that I am about to commit. And Krishna, after teaching him everything in the Bhagavad Gita, at the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita says, forget all these stupid things that you have learned about karma. These are all adharma. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchah. Forget all these stupid philosophies that you have learned. Just follow what I tell you and you will transcend all sins. Don't worry about karma. So Bhagavad Gita is a karma busting book. But for those who do not live the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, and more so for people who do not understand what Bhagavad Gita is, or don't have the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, they must incur the law of karma. Because karma exists and will continue to exist. And if you do not take the message of the Bhagavad Gita to heart and live your life according to it, you will definitely suffer the consequences of karma. So, how to transcend karma, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, is a separate subject which I shall cover. But today I am going to cover the subject of karma itself, because all of us who do not live our lives according to the message of the Bhagavad Gita must suffer the consequences of karma. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches us how to live a life which is pure, which is stainless, how to receive knowledge which actually extinguishes all our karmas, just like a fire burns into ashes firewood. It teaches us how on this transcendental boat of knowledge we shall cross over this entire ocean of sin and suffering. And it's not a post-dated check that if you do this, you will get that after you die. There's nothing like that. The benefits you will experience and you will accrue and you will live in this life, moment to moment, day by day, you will realize how you are transcending karma. So, having said that, I want to now tell you about why bad things happen to good people, or what is the law of karma all about. In this lecture, which you should listen to very, very carefully, many of your questions which you have been asking me will be answered. Many of you who have not asked questions will find many questions that are there in your heart. They will definitely be answered. And you will get an understanding of how the universe begins to work. Please listen very carefully, because if you don't listen carefully, the consequences will be that you may pick up half knowledge, which is a very dangerous thing. Krishna says very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, Kim karmeti, kim akarmeti, kavayo api arthamohitaha. So Krishna says, it's very difficult to understand what is, even the intelligent are bewildered. Kim karma, kim akarmeti, kavayo api arthamohitaha. Tatte karma pravikshami yaj gnatva mokshase ashubhat. So in the 4th chapter, Krishna says very clearly, even the wise, even the intelligent are bewildered in understanding what is karma and what is akarma. I shall explain to you about karma, knowing which you shall be liberated from all sins. But it's not very easy to understand. I must explain to you in detail. Because Krishna says in the very next verse, that was 4:16 and this is 4:17. Karmano api bodhavyam, bodhavyam cha vikarmana, akarmanascha bodhavyam, gahana karmano gatihi. To understand what is good karma, to understand what is bad karma, to understand how to transcend karma is very difficult to understand. Gahana karmano gatihi. That path of understanding this is very difficult to understand. 18, 19, 20, 4.18, 19, 20, we will cover much later. But this is how Krishna begins the discourse on karma in the 4th chapter. So I would like you to pay attention, and I would like you to not let your mind wander, because this knowledge which I am giving you could change the rest of your life. The Bhagavad describes that the Mandukya Upanishad describes Pavakad Vispullingaha, that God is the fire, we are the sparks that come out of the fire. God is the fire, and the individual souls, you and me, we are the sparks that emerge from that fire. Also, Bhagavad Puran describes that from the fire emerge the sparks, which are the individual souls, and from the fire also emerges smoke, which is called Prakriti. And I've explained to you in the earlier chapter that Prakriti is a separated energy of Krishna, that is the smoke. And we are the sparks who are like the Lord in quality, but we are totally unlike him in quantity. And therefore, we have two choices. The sparks that emerge from the fire have two choices. The souls that emerge from God have two choices. One choice is to continue to get entangled in the smoke. It is to it is to pursue your entanglement with the world. It is to extend your involvement with karma. So the spark getting involved with the smoke is karma. Bhut bhav udbhav karo visarga karma samgnitah, says Krishna in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. All efforts you make towards expanding your involvement with Prakriti, this is karma. And when this spark, instead of getting further involved with the smoke, tries to return to the fire, into the flames, it turns its face from the smoke and it turns its way into the flames of the fire. It turns to return back to Godhead. This, Krishna says, is yoga. So understand now that God is the fire, you are the sparks, Prakriti is the smoke. All the action you take towards increasing your involvement with Prakriti, expanding your attachment to the world and the contents of the world, developing and expanding your mind, your intelligence, your physique, all of these are karmic. Whereas all the efforts you make towards returning to God, for the spark to return to the fire, these are what is known as yoga. Yuj. Yuj means to reunite. And yoga, which is a derivative of the word yuj, means to reunite with God. So to reunite with God, you engage in yoga, which is a separate subject we shall cover. And your entanglement with the smoke is called karma. Please understand now that karma is actually in some way or the other, in some protean form, accepted by everybody all over the world. It is about action and reaction. It is about effort and destiny. It is about what you sow, so shall you reap. If you sow the wind, you shall reap the whirlwind. Every action you perform has a consequence. It has a moral consequence and it also has a consequence of what will happen to you within the world, because this karma is the law of Prakriti. And therefore, everything you perform within Prakriti, everything you perform for expanding Prakriti, everything you do, action, reaction, effort, destiny, Purushartha and Prarabdha, all of these are to do with the law of karma. Let me explain to you from the simplest level what karma is. First and foremost, I would like you to understand that all of us know what is action and reaction. We all know what is effort and destiny. Action and reaction is very simple. You do something and you see the consequences of what you do. If you do something good, you get good in return. If you do something bad, you get something bad in return. If you think that you're doing something good and unfortunately you're doing something bad, which frequently happens, it upsets someone else, then you have to suffer the good and the bad. So I am going to explain to you that law of karma is divided into many types of karma. You have good karma, you have bad karma, you have instant karma, you have delayed karma, you have sanchit karma or seed karma, you have prarabdha or manifest karma, you have mass karma. These are all some of the subjects I am going to explore today. What is good karma? Good karma is easy to understand. All the good that you do must come back to you. You do good to another person's for his body, that good will come back to you, to your body. You do something good for the person's mind, and then the same good shall come back to your mind. You do something good for that person's intelligence, and that good will come back to your intelligence. If you do something that makes somebody's ego feel good, that same good will come back to you and make your ego feel good. In fact, this good that you do is stored in the universal bank of karma. And this credit is good not only in this life, but in the interval between lives and in the lives to come. In the Adi Puran, Krishna is asked by Arjuna that, my dear Arjuna, my dear Krishna, I want to go to heaven, but I am not inclined to perform all these painful yagyas and havans and homams and everything. Can you show me a simple way by which I can go to heaven? This is very important because in the early stages of the development of our religion, many people misunderstood and they thought that the performance of yagya alone is required for going to heaven. Heaven, as I've explained to you, is a transient experience while you are changing bodies. From one body to the next, as you go, there is an interval where you have no body and you experience the content of your mind with fullest intensity. And all the good that you have done in your life, all the good that you have done in your life, without any distractions, without any disturbances, you will experience fully. And that experience of your mind without the body and senses to distract you is known as heaven or swarg. And this swarg is experienced as the interval between two bodies, in the interval between two bodies. So Krishna is asked by Arjuna, what shall I do? I want to experience heaven, but I am not willing to do all the yagyas that are required to go to heaven. Because the traditional message of going to perform, to go to heaven, was to perform all your karmic yagyas, your karma kanda. In the Kathopanishad, that is described that you have to perform the sacrificial fire. And this performance of the sacrificial fire takes you to heaven. So Krishna tells Arjun, don't worry, Arjun. Annadau Jaladaschaiva Aturascha Chikitsaka Trividham Swargamayanti Vina Yagnena O Bharata. That, oh Arjun, don't worry. If you offer food, Annadav, water, Jaladas, Aturascha Chikitsaka, if you offer medicines to those. So if you offer food to the hungry, if you offer water to the thirsty, if you offer medicines to those who are suffering from illness, then he says, without having to perform any fire sacrifice, havans, homams, yagyas, you will be assured of going to heaven. So this is the benefit of doing good karma. Good karma means for the good you do, you will get in return. Yes, you will get it in this life itself. No need to wait to the next or the next life. Many other religions give you post-dated checks, but this is not necessarily a post-dated check. You will start getting experiences very soon. If you do good, the law of karma, the law of reciprocity will be experienced by you in this life. And you will also experience that a person who always does good will also experience good in this life. When he leaves this body, in the transition from one body to the other, he will experience heaven. He will experience Swarg. So if you build a drinking water fountain, if you build a place to feed the hungry, if you build a dharamshala, if you plant trees to offer shade, yes, you will benefit from all of them. So one who builds a kitchen for the hungry, free kitchen for the hungry, he experiences, he will never in this life have to go without food. One who builds a water fountain will never go without having water to drink. One who plants trees will never be lacking a place to find shade. One who indeed builds a hospital will never lack medical care. So as you do, so shall you reap. If you do good, you will get good karma. And that good karma will come back to you, yes, even in this lifetime. As somebody jokingly once told me, what happens if I construct a Sulabh Sauchalay? Well, the answer is obvious. You will never be hard pressed to find a place to relieve yourself. You will also enjoy the benefits of heaven. And after heaven, when you are reborn, as long as your credit is good in the bank of karma, that credit will continue to give you the benefits. So what really happens is that as long as your drinking water fountain is giving water to those who are thirsty, as long as the place that you've built to distribute food continues to distribute food, as long as the hospital you've built continues to distribute medicine and treat people for illness, so long, life after life, you will get these benefits. We'll share with you the example of a gentleman who wanted to perform a lot of good karma, and therefore he decided that he will feed all the Brahmins in Varanasi. And he collected a lot of his funds and he was about to do that, when one ENT surgeon went and told him that, why are you trying to feed Brahmins in Varanasi for your good karma? Don't you know that the result of that meal will be only as good as the duration of that meal? After that, the next day, when he passes out all that food, all your good karma will go down the flush. Instead, he said, let us use your funds to build a hospital which treats ear, nose, and throat diseases. And I will convince the municipal corporation to continue and maintain that hospital so that as long as that hospital is running, as long as it continues to exist, you will continue to enjoy the benefits of that good karma. So, not far from the Times office in Bombay, you can go to Napier Road and you will see facing the old VSNL tower that there is a hospital which is called Atma Singh Jessa Singh Banke Bihari Kan Nak Ghasa Municipal Hospital. This is how that hospital was built. And every time you pass that hospital, you can understand and you can appreciate that Atma Singh Jessa Singh Banke Bihari is enjoying the good karma of that hospital which he started and which continues to run. However, it is interesting that when we perform good karma, that good karma should not be enjoyed by us in terms of name and fame, because that is also an enjoyment of good karma and it depletes your balance in the bank of good karma. There's a very famous story of a time in Swarg when Indra, a new Indra has been appointed. Now try to understand that Swarg is a place of enjoyment, and there also you have hierarchies. And that position of Indra, which is the lord of Swarg, the king of Swarg, his position is also changeable. And different people can aspire to that position, much like different people can aspire to and become the president of the United States of America. So this gentleman had performed, this soul had performed so much good karma that when he went to Swarg, he was granted the position of Indra. And having been granted the position of Indra, he was given all the apsaras to enjoy. He was given this Uchai Shrava, Airavata, the wonderful horse, the wonderful elephant, all the dancing girls. He had all the gods, 333 crore gods who were in Swarg were at his beck and call. And he decided that everyone should know what noble deeds and what great deeds he has performed. So he called an assembly of all the 33 crore devatas. And he said, let them all hear what is the wonderful deeds I have done to deserve this position as Indra. And sure enough, while he sat on Indra's throne, his good deeds were announced one after the other. And after announcement of each good deed, all the gods clapped and they cheered him. Finally, when all his good deeds had been recited and all the gods had clapped and applauded him, he was told that now it's time for you to vacate the chair. It's time for the next Indra to come and sit in your seat. This is what I have not been able to enjoy anything of Swarg. Why are you asking me to leave? I have to enjoy my good karmas. And then he was told that all this recitation of your virtues, all this celebration of what good karmas you've done, all of that has been your enjoyment. And that's the end of your sojourn as Indra. And make way for the next Indra. Therefore, good karma should not be used to expand your ego. Good karma should not be used in order for everyone to know what a wonderful man you are. Because if you do that, unfortunately, what will happen is that in enjoying those benefits, your good karmas will be exhausted. So don't put your name on the institutions you build. Don't put your name on the piyao or the drinking water fountain. Don't put your name on the annakshetra or where if your food is free food is served. Do not place your name on the dharamshala. Do not put your name on the hospital, because all these diminish your karmas. All this diminishes your good karma and diminishes your enjoyment of the karma. And this karma gets exhausted. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Te tam bhuktva swarga lokam vishalam kshine punya martya lokam vishanti. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that having exhausted all your pious deeds in heaven, you have to leave those delights when it is exhausted, and you have to come back into this world of birth and death. So indeed, that is only a temporary enjoyment that you get in heaven. And soon, when you've enjoyed your delights in heaven, you must come back again onto this earth. You must be reborn. So this is about good karma. Do good to others, and by doing good to others, that good will come back to you by the law of reciprocity, by the law of karma. Similarly, there is bad karma. And bad karma means all the harm, all the hurts, all the pain that you have caused, all that hurt, all that harm, all that pain must come back to you. It will come back to you. If you have hurt somebody's body, that bodily harm will come back to you. If you have hurt somebody emotionally, then that emotional pain will be also inflicted and experienced by you. If you hurt somebody intellectually, that intellectual harm will also come to you. And wow, if you should hurt somebody's ego, that pain, which is exquisite, pain caused by the hurt to the ego, that hurt will also come back to you. And that hurt from the ego is also terrible. So, before we go on to describe more about bad karma, I'd like to tell you that there are some things about the law of karma you should know and you should understand. And this is number one, ignorance is not an excuse.
Conference is being recorded.
Have you ever had your car towed away or received a ticket for parking in a no parking slot where you did not realize that there was no parking? And when the cop came to tow your car away, or when the cop came to give you a ticket, there's too much noise. Can someone reduce that their microphones, turn their microphones off? There's a lot of background noise. Can you cut that out?
Can someone check? Pavan, will you be able to check who's... I think it's gone out.
All right. First of all, ignorance is not an excuse. If you park in a no parking slot and you don't know it's no parking, that's not an excuse. The cop will tow your car away. He will give you a ticket. So ignorance is not an excuse. Don't say, I didn't know that this was bad karma. I didn't know this was not to be done. Secondly, karma does not care who you are. Sometimes people say, Mera baap kaun hai malum hai? You know who my father is? Because he's going to fix everything. You give me a ticket, I'll get that ticket fixed. So you should understand that here nobody cares who your father is. Nobody cares who your son is. Nobody cares who your connections, what your connections are. For example, in the example of Dashrath, when Dashrath went hunting, he fired an arrow, and that arrow killed Shravan Kumar. It was not his intent to kill Shravan Kumar. He was hunting and he heard a noise and he shot an arrow which killed Shravan Kumar. And Shravan Kumar was the sole support of his parents, whom he was carrying on his shoulders. And his parents, on hearing of Shravan Kumar's death, wept and died of heartbreak. What happened to Dashrath? Did the law of karma say, "Nahi, nahi, Dashrath, you are going to be father of Lord Ram, so how the hell can we punish you on the law of karma?" Not at all, not at all. Just as Shravan Kumar's parents died of heartbreak, similarly, when Ram was parted from Dashrath, Dashrath also died of heartbreak. So one, ignorance is not an excuse. Number two, it also means that you cannot take the excuse that you are well connected, highly placed, a big guru, a big priest. None of that will work. The law of karma will work on you implacably, absolutely implacably. So also with bad karma. In bad karma, you have, if you perform evil, if you perform harm to other people, that harm will come back to you. Imagine, you think that harm is only for human beings. No, my friends. Every harm you perform which is unnecessary will come back to you. For example, you might think that eating the products of violence is very natural, it's normal, it's legal. Why can't I have my chicken tikka? Why can't I have my mutton biryani? But please try to understand, according to the law of karma, you are involved in the entire process. It is very clearly described in the Mahabharata that one who sells the animal, one who buys the animal, one who kills the animal, one who cuts the animal, one who cooks the animal, one who serves the animal, and one who eats the animal, all of them are involved in that cycle and chain of bad karma. So bad karma is the consequence of the harm you do to other people. That harm may be perfectly legal according to the laws of the land, but it is not considered to be good karma. You cause harm, you will experience that harm in some way. I think people are going to ask questions, so I will discuss this bad karma in greater detail in the next class, and I will give it over for questions this time.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Nagarkatti. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Nagarkatti, of course, you mentioned, and I think I'll club all of the questions which have come on the same lines together instead of asking individual questions. That, you spoke about karma and you spoke about the fact that there's a credit, you have a karma credit that kind of gets passed on from birth to birth. Yet a lot of people ask us that according to them, they are, ever since they kind of regain consciousness and they are an adult, they've been doing good according to them. Yet someone said, my sister is a very nice person and she loves everyone, yet she's having a lot of relationship problems, her marriages are falling apart. So we've kind of established the fact that it kind of being passed on from one birth to another. Yet in this particular birth, if you kind of encounter the problems of the last birth coming onto you, are there really any ways to clean up the karma? What can you really start doing in this birth, not knowing what you've done in the last birth?
So I think this will have to wait, because first I
Okay.
have to describe karma in great detail. After I discuss karma in great detail, then I will tell you what the Bhagavad Gita says about transcending karma.
Mm-hmm.
I assure the audience that if they listen to every single one of my lectures, by the time I finish this summary on the Bhagavad Gita, which I am going to cover now, 99% of all their questions will be automatically answered.
Yes. Okay, we have a couple of questions. I think this will, in the last session, I think this might, be relevant for this session also. Can the soul of a sinner be passed on to that of a saint in the next birth? Someone is asking us.
What?
Can the soul of a sinner be passed on to a saint in the next birth?
Passed on?
As in the soul,
Can a soul move from sinner
move
to
from a
sainthood?
sinner to, yes.
Yes, that I have already discussed. This person has not attended my earlier lectures. In the first lecture itself, I pointed out. Api chet sudracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadhurev sa mantavya samyak vyavasityo hi saha. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya prati janahi name bhaktya pranashyati. That even if you are have performed abominable actions of a sinner, even then, once you take to this path, very soon you will become a pillar of morality, a saint. So Arjun declared boldly that my devotee shall never perish. He also says, Api che dasi papebhyo sarvebhyo papa kritamaha sarvam jnana plavaineva vrijinam santirashyasi. That on this boat of divine knowledge, of transcendental knowledge, which I am giving you, Krishna says, seated on this boat of knowledge, you will cross over this entire ocean of suffering. It doesn't matter if you are the greatest sinner amongst all sinners. Api che dasi papebhyo sarvebhyo papa kritama. You may be a Nobel Prize winner among sinners. Even then, you can cross over this ocean of suffering. Yatha idhamso samido agnir bhasmasat kurute arjuna. Gnyan agni dagda karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. Just like firewood is turned into ashes by the fire, so also all your sins are converted into ashes by this divine knowledge which is being given by me to you, Arjuna. So it is certainly possible. It happens all the time. You can actually learn to transcend your karma through the path of yoga. Is that clear?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Shantanu. Another question we have is, do yoga, exercise, meditation, being spiritual, chanting are also the kind of parts of good karma, apart from doing good and doing good for people? Doing these things also, are they part of good karma?
Everything you do with the intent that I am doing it is good karma. Everything you're doing with the idea of remembering God and forgetting self, that is spirituality. So if you think I am doing good, that is good karma. If you're doing good so that your right hand does not know what your left hand is doing, then that is transcendental divine action. So all actions that are done with selfish intent, all actions that are done with the prominent and dominant sense of self, all of these are good karma. All these actions that are done to diminish, to attenuate, to annihilate, to transcend, to surrender the self, these are all free of karma. I'm jumping the gun here because it's all going to come later in the...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, of course, Dr. Shantanu. As I said, that a lot of questions are very similar. I think you will answer them, and automatically they will get answered while listening to the session. I think maybe we can take one or two questions more. Another question we have is: do humans take next birth and only as humans, or they can take birth as any species?
Again, this will be covered when I'm doing reincarnation, which is also an extension of this law of karma.
Right.
And generally speaking, we don't commonly move suddenly from human species to animal species.
Okay.
You generally move lower in the human species itself. So if you have performed sinful activity in this life, although you were born to pious parents, well, next time you won't get pious parents. You will get parents who match the sins that you have been committing all along. If you perform pious deeds in this life when you are born to sinful parents, then surely these pious deeds will give you pious parents the next time. So it's a gradual process of rising and a gradual process of falling. However, there are examples in the scripture, and I will be giving stories to illustrate them, where people have moved from human birth to animal birth. But that I don't believe it is a common way. In fact, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Asurim yonim apanam mudho janmani janmani. That birth after birth, you take, lower and lower births until finally you are just, subhuman.
Hmm.
And then finally you move to animal form of life.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Shantanu. I think a lot of questions are very similar to this nature, saying that, I'm a good person, then why do you think? So I think while listening to the session also, I think you will be continuing the concept of karma in the next session also. So I think we can hold on to the similar questions after the session. Will we be continuing the same karma session next week also, as you mentioned?
Yes, I think it will continue for several sessions because
Okay.
I've barely finished good karma. And then I have to do bad karma. And I have to elaborate many things in bad karma which people will be defensive about. And why is that bad? Why is this bad? Why do you say it is bad karma? So I'll have to explain everything.
Right.
So if I do it gradually rather than in a rushed manner, yeah, it will take some time, but I will cover this law of karma.
Okay. Great. I think we've answered all the similar kind of questions together. And the one that, we are holding on is because in the next session, Dr. Shantanu will talk about other forms of karma, other sorts of karma, and all the questions will automatically be answered. So thank you so much, Dr. Shantanu. I think we've reached the end of this session. We look forward to having you next week in the session where you will be continuing the same session on karma, which is March 25th at the same time. So thank you so much to everyone for joining. Thank you, Dr. Shantanu.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
thank you. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you. Thank you.